You don't have to be a member of the country club, and you don't have to be cool enough to know about, Garden City Social Club. Yeah, just look in the whatever, the paper, look online, and you're going to find it. It couldn't be easier, and it's bothersome that people cannot solve their own problems, and they're saying that their problem is they can find nothing to do. Well, just get creative. And, the motto in Savannah was, if you can't find anything to do, throw your own damn party.
Hey guys, this is Chris.
Hey guys, this is David.
And we are Drop the Disc podcast.
Right.
And we are here with an awesome guest at 4 p.m. on Monday.
Yeah.
Getting a little started earlier than
with
usual.
Our regular beers and our Budweiser Nitro.
Real quick shout out to Havard Usry from last week. He had AB Bev hook us up.
I think we have to shout out AB Bev, but I think that's as much as they get.
Yeah. Beer Me Augusta, all that good stuff. They hooked us up with some good beers, and I'm drinking a Budweiser Nitro Reserve Gold in a very sleek-looking red can.
Long name.
Very long name, and it's very interesting. I've only had Nitro like
the coffee,
porters, whatnot, and it's very strange drinking a lager that has no carbonation. Because that's a nitro. It is interesting.
Honestly, I don't know if I'm going to like that, but I'm still going to try it.
It's not bad. I mean, it's very cool can.
And that can is sexy.
Yes, it is. And y'all, how is regular beer?
Regular beer is actually as described, I would say.
I would agree.
Yeah.
So those of you that don't see the can, it's literally a white label, and it says regular beer, period. And so who does that? I feel like it's... not even Georgia.
DuClaw Brewing. I don't know where that is. Shout out to them. Baltimore, Maryland.
There you go. They must know how to do regular beer.
Just a bunch of regular guys.
Yeah.
Without calling out their competition, it is very warm, regular beer.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go. But real quick, our 2020 presenting sponsor for this year is Nancy Powell. She's a real estate broker at Powell and Associates Incorporated. You can find her downtown in the new news building. Her office will be completed and done next month. Very excited for her, and could not be here without her. So thank you, Nancy.
Right. We couldn't be living in the houses that I'm living in, that you're going to live in without her. So I think that's kind of double that she's been helping us out.
Right. Absolutely.
And her the best way to contact her right now, because she just transitioned to her own company, of course, is her Instagram at Downtown Augusta Broker. And
slide in her DMs.
Right. And at the very least, what we always say is, if you're going to do something with real estate, buying or selling, or if you're just curious, you might as well talk to somebody who knows what they're doing. Yeah. And so that's what Nancy is.
Yep. Absolutely. And we are drinking non-Savannah River Brewery. However, AB Bev does carry our drink sponsor for 2020, which is Savannah River Brewery Company. And did you see, David, that
maybe
they had those new flavors for Swamp
Thing?
Are they
gone already?
It was gone in a day.
I'm so upset.
There was a line.
I didn't even try them.
There was a line outside. I believe it was like mango Swamp Thing and pineapple Swamp Thing. And it was gone in a day, and I am proud of them. That's awesome. I know we're going to try it later. I'm not worried about it.
It has to come back.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, I was talking to one of the brewers about it, and they are looking into doing a mix-match pack of Swamp Thing flavors.
That's like a Sweetwater. It's like a Sweetwater kind of thing.
Yes, it would be very good, and it would be good in their interest to do that.
Of course.
Anyways.
By the way, I want to do a really thoughtful segue. So, something about Savannah River Brewery we've never talked about is the cool billboard that's over there that just says, what, got beer?
It says beer with an arrow pointing down.
Right.
Yes.
And so this is how I'm going to segue to introduce our guest this week, because this week we're talking to
Stuart Rayburn.
That's right. And you have been in the billboard business before, is that right?
I have. I still own some.
So what is your job, Stuart? What do you do?
Well, I build companies.
Okay.
And they mostly center around marketing. Essentially, our mission in these companies is to promote locally owned small businesses. That's our jam. That's what we think gives a city its flavor, and that's where our passion is.
Okay.
The big box stores and all the corporates can fend for themselves.
And you're currently, so our guest and our listeners can go ahead and picture you have a little guy shirt on. So
Yes.
A little guy to Augusta.
what is your relation to them, and what other businesses are you a part of?
Well, I and my business partner Molly Swift own Little Guide through Swift Ray LLC, and what we do there is we put out a small book that features locally owned businesses of high imports, lots of value. These are people that produce great products and provide great services, usually from a personal passion and vision that they have derived themselves, often from a long history of working in that industry. So what we do is we tell their story through photographs and well-written copy that just kind of explains who they are and why they've gotten into doing what they do, and mostly really why they care about what they do.
So let's take a step back. So you build businesses, and one of your passions is marketing for local businesses.
Yes.
So where did that start? How did you become a person that builds businesses and cares so much about local business?
Had to be drama class.
Right. Of course it
Had
was.
to be drama class.
That's where everybody
A
learns to care.
lot of things go back to drama class.
Indeed. Well, it's hard to figure where it derives from, but I really think it comes from a place of independence and wanting to do things on my own. I've just always had this driving desire to make my own path. And for that reason, after college, I had a couple of Fortune 1000 and Fortune 500, highly corporate type jobs. And I loved the training I got there. I loved the people. I loved the processes, but I never really was into the culture.
Can you name drop the companies?
Oh, sure. One was called, one was Bell South Yellow Pages, so Bell.
One was called Bell South.
It was Bell South, yes, one of the big ones, yes. And I learned so much there, but just the culture was just not me. But again, it was invaluable to my professional development. And then I moved on from there and worked for a company called Data National, which owned phone books in 14 states. It's kind of the biggest company you've never heard of, but they were Fortune 1000, traded on the stock exchange, a couple of them, and it was a good company. Wow. But they put out what were called alternative phone books, which were a little bit more difficult to sell than traditional, which is interesting to talk about nowadays because any phone book ad would be hard to sell right now. I gotta say,
Tough sell.
Yeah. So, that's where I got my, kind of my corporate structure background and my professional sales training and background.
So what school did you go to?
Thank you.
Yes.
What college? Actually, let's back up
it
a
up.
little bit
Back
more.
it up.
Oh, yeah.
Where were you born, and then where did you grow up?
Okay. So I was born...
We're doing like a Benjamin
Interestingly,
Button right now.
Yeah.
Right?
We started now we're at birth.
I was a peanut in Daytona Beach, Florida.
Okay.
And I spent a quick minute in Fort Lauderdale. But by the time I was 2, I lived in Brunswick, Georgia, and I've been in Georgia ever since. So 48 years in Georgia makes me a Georgian, and that's what I claim. But I've lived in Brunswick, St. Simons, Augusta, Atlanta, Athens, Macon, and Savannah.
Okay.
And I did most of my growing up, at least through high school, in Savannah. Before I came here for college at Augusta College.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And it was Augusta College then?
It was. I was
Okay.
the very last class in 1995 of Augusta College.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Great. I was the very first class of GRU when I graduated.
Also last class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a burden that I carry.
Oh, what a name. What a name.
Right, but we won't get into that because I get into that every episode.
We're already there.
Okay, so you went to college at Augusta College. Do you have a family in Augusta? You've been in Augusta how many years?
I do. I've been here since 88. So what is that? Quick math. Is that, I don't know, 32? Without trying?
Yes. Yes,
there was no
it is.
smoke coming out of me.
Depending on the month, but yeah.
Yeah. So somewhere around there. I came to Augusta. In fact, I was only going to be here for a short time. I was on my way to UGA. And I came here because my mother lives here, and I wanted to spend a few years around her before I, flew away.
Gotcha.
And, I met people, and I enjoyed them, and I never flew away.
Awesome. And I'm guessing you also didn't fly away because you love the city.
Absolutely.
So
I've grown to love it. Absolutely.
You've also seen, you just said you've grown to love it. You've also seen all the changes going on.
Oh, yeah.
And so I guess when you came for the first time to Augusta College, what was your honest opinion about Augusta, Georgia?
Well, there wasn't a lot going on. There wasn't a lot for young people to do.
And this,
18-year-olds.
This was 95, right?
This was 88,
88
when I moved
okay.
here, yeah.
Okay.
And I came from Savannah, where there was plenty to do, plenty to get involved with.
Yeah.
So it was a culture shock of some sorts. As culture goes, teenage culture, whatever that is, there were some similarities, and a lot of people in both cities would host private parties in houses and on land. So I saw that here. But when it was time to go out and do, there wasn't as much.
Yeah. Did you know that Coco Rubio and Deke Copenhaver used to have house parties together, and Coco Rubio was the DJ?
I did not know that. I'm not aware at all. I don't know Deke well. I know Coco well.
Just a fun fact. You made me think about it.
I never knew that. Yeah.
Fun fact that we learned on a podcast.
We learned
That's
on the
awesome.
episode, yeah.
Well, good.
We were honored to be the transfers
Actually,
of that information.
I don't mean to throw Deke under the bus, but Coco said he was invited to a party that Deke was hosting, and Coco was like,
The music was bad.
Coco basically, but he said there was no music.
I see.
And he said, Deke, if you ever want me to come back, I'm going to bring my DJ setup.
Yeah.
And Deke said, okay. And then the rest is history.
I guess
Very
they
nice.
just agreed to do business and politics together after that. So moving to Augusta in the 80s, going to university here and graduating, and you kind of you get into Fortune 500s, which is pretty cool. What year was that you had started working with the Bell South?
That was 95. I was 25 years old. And I had actually just come off of a year and a half campaign getting Charlie Norwood elected for Congress. So I was in PR for...
That's an old name.
Yeah. And that was a great... it was started as an internship in college, and it turned into a paid position. And I was invited to go to Washington to work with him further, but he was going to cut my pay from almost nothing to zero to turn me back into an intern in D.C.
That was nice of him.
And I had a hard time just figuring out how to pay for my way in D.C. at the time.
Yeah.
So I didn't go. And, who knows? Maybe that would have led to a lot of interesting things, but... Most fun I ever had working for anyone else was working for Charlie Norwood in that campaign.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the little guy to Washington, D.C.
Right? To be the big guy.
That would be the big guy.
Right? Yeah. The little guy to insider politics in D.C. There you go.
That's great.
That would be a good read. I would read that book.
Yes.
So what brings you... I guess from those 500, you start your own businesses. When was that? When did you start becoming an entrepreneur?
I was 30.
Okay.
In fact, I left the Fortune 1000 Data National that I was at, my third job officially. And I remember turning 30 in, it was Asheville, North Carolina. I was in Asheville. It's right at Millennium New Year. So I'm a January 3rd. So we were on vacation still for Millennial. So we rocked out Millennial in Asheville with my friends Matt Flynn and Barry Blackston from Nacho Mamas and Stillwater and such. Okay. And then I remember 3 days later, all of a sudden, wondering what was going on because I had no job, at the time. And, I just started reflecting on my life at 30 for a really awful 30 minutes. I got over it quickly, thankfully. But ironically, 2 months later, I was able to buy a billboard company, and I bought it from Brad Ushery. Okay. And that kind of started me off on that path. Brad needed somebody to sell billboards for him. I came in, I sold them well. And eventually he asked if I'd like to purchase the company, and I did, and that's kind of where it all began.
What is that company called?
It was called Value Boards Outdoor Advertising, and eventually we had about 34 faces at the time, so I could sell those quickly. So I needed more to do, and I began to sell advertising for the other billboard companies in town, mostly Lamar Outdoor, and I ended up changing the name to a brokerage name, so it ended up being Billboard Guru, which was a billboard brokerage.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just what's the hottest billboard in the area?
What's the best spot for a billboard?
Maybe for a podcast billboard.
There you go. Well, they change all the time, but back then, the corner of Bobby Jones and Washington was pretty hot, and I would sell that. And they're I mean, they're all location specific. So, there's one on Wheeler Road at the corner of Walton Way, which is grandfathered in. You can't put any billboards on Wheeler Road at all, but it got up before the 2000 ordinance went in, and that one stayed full the whole time.
I bet.
And there are others. There are a couple of great ones around town.
Absolutely.
But out of what may be 3,500 billboards, there's probably 20 super awesome spots.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so super awesome spots. I'm gonna glide in and ask you a question. You've mentioned already Stillwater, and I've actually seen you numerous times at Stillwater.
Oh, only that one time.
Okay.
Only that one time.
Yes, for the record. But what are some cool spots that you like to go to? Either you with the boys, or family.
Any occasion.
Any occasion.
Yeah. Well, there are lots. And I go to Stillwater because, two reasons. My best friends own it, and it's 50 feet from my office, so it makes it really convenient. But there are more than I could name. Augusta's developed a really cool F&B culture over the last really 7 years, and it's really grown, I'd say, in the last 3 even more. But, I love all the Frog Holler Group stuff. Hive and Bee's Knees have been good for downtown. I'm real excited about Pineapple.
Ooh,
and
yeah.
frankly, Fuse was great before that. The food was exceptional.
Have you had Pineapple?
Have you been there?
Well, I went there the day they opened, and the food was great, and the service was, difficult, but that's just what happens on the first day.
That's reality.
Normal. Yeah.
It's reality. We had.
I wish we had
well.
seen you. We were at the soft opening. You probably got there like a week before that.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm not that important. I have to pay my way.
Oh, we did too. Oh yeah. Don't worry.
Hold on now.
Yeah. Oh, but listen, I loved it, and I can't wait for them to reopen. But just the list goes on, and there's no way I can name them all. Who I'm really excited about right now is Namaste in Evans.
Really? Yeah, they're rocking it.
I have never seen a restaurant at that price point put out such beautiful plates.
Right.
They decorate the plates. They're perfect. And the fact that it's in a strip mall and it doesn't seem like you're going to get this exceptional food and the price point's right, and then they deliver it, it just is mind-blowing to me.
And for people that aren't familiar with it, what kind of food do they serve?
It's Indian cuisine,
food.
And that's not even in my realm. I don't usually do that, but I've had great experiences
Molly
there.
got you there, didn't she?
Well, probably in a roundabout way.
Right.
Probably. I'm sure she influenced that. Laziza, I feel the same way. But, Cucina is exceptional on Fury's Ferry. JD's place over here, I bet we could see it from here. Noble Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Is exceptional.
Definitely.
Have you followed the track of like Cotton Patch to Noble Jones?
Yes.
I had my prom dinner at Cotton Patch.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Burgers. We all had burgers.
That's not why we go to prom.
It's absolutely
burgers. That's why I went there.
Mom's paying tonight. So, Stuart, we're about to start talking about the Little Guide, which is the business that you're in right now. Before we do that, I would be interested to hear a little bit of maybe recollection from you as far as like your time in Augusta, like how would you place us now versus what you've seen?
Well, I mean, we're way ahead of where we were. That, of course, that's natural.
You hope to be able to say that.
Right. I think it's progressed as it would. I mean, it's a middle-sized southern town, and there's value to that, and sometimes there are drawbacks. Yeah. I think what it requires is people who have a desire to bring something to their city to take that step and to take that risk and, to execute. Mm-hmm. Most of these ideas are coming from other markets. That's just normal, and that's as it should be. So, I think the process often is somebody travels and they find something that they, just blows their mind, and they want to do that, in their local area.
Well, I think that's also just capitalism.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day.
Well, I mean, it's the art and the science to that is really interesting to me.
Okay, so we're going to take that break, I promise. And I'm looking at the track, and Chris hasn't spoken in like 2 minutes, so I'm actually going to let Chris start this off. But
yeah, we're good. I've been sipping on that beer, and I've been enjoying it.
I see that. So we're going to take a real quick moment to shout out our community partners.
Yeah, and actually, Stuart's going to have to listen to me talk about his business. So,
actually, Stuart, do you want to do our community shout out for the little guy?
No, you do it, because I want to hear how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You poor things.
So, Chris, go ahead. Go
okay,
ahead.
So...
No pressure.
No pressure.
I'm not worried about it. It's not hard to talk about this book. Okay, guys. So The Little Guide, one of our partners this year, and we're super excited about it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we're talking about this little red book that you can find in restaurants. And no, it does not cost a dime or a nickel. It's actually free, and you can take it and steal it from the restaurant and bring it home to your coffee. Your coffee table, whatever you want. Put it on there for visitors, and if you flip through it, it's tons of different local businesses and anything you can get yourself into.
Right, and it's not
on
just
the weekends.
Restaurants.
No, it's not just restaurants. It's anything you can get into on the weekend. Any kind of boutiques, any kind of things.
I mean, there's even like animal services for your pets.
Right.
It's basically this. Well, I don't want to say the word guide. But it's basically a guide to, if you want to be involved in local business and you want to know who's doing good things,
right?
Flip through the book. And while you're flipping through the book,
read
by the way,
the stories.
Go to the entertainment section.
Yes.
Because we are very excited that by the time this episode posts, you guys expect to have the little guide the next day, the Monday after the post of this episode, and we will be in the 2020 Little Guide.
That's right.
Like it or not.
That's right.
You can see our story, even though you've heard us talk about it multiple times.
Right.
But it's super cool. We're super excited, and we feel part of a community being inside the Little Guide.
That's absolutely right.
So, but also over our shoulder, is the cyber building, and inside that cyber building, who else is in there?
The cyber building is awesome. The clubhouse is specifically what we're talking about. And the cool thing about the clubhouse is we've been talking about community, we've been talking about local. The Little Guide is all about this. We're all about this. And the clubhouse is all about this. Building up local businesses built by, they have people that are in tech. They have Augusta sports leagues running out of there.
Yep.
They have coding classes. They have a 3D printer. It should be a 4D printer, I feel like, but a 3D printer.
Two 3D printers, and actually they've used those printers in the midst of COVID, making masks for the community.
That's cool.
N95s, yeah. And so we only work and support the best local organizations and the best local partners, and we're very proud and very happy to have the Little Guide and the Clubhouse on board.
Right. We're super happy about that. So today is May the 4th be with you.
Oh, that's true. Thank you for not letting us.
However, when this episode drop on Sunday, people will know that today was May the 4th.
And we're happy about it.
I've got a question. We're in 2020 now, and we have a Baby Yoda.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So I put on Instagram today a question. I did a poll. Baby Yoda or Yoda? What is your pick?
God, I hope it's Yoda.
Don't.
What is my pick?
What's your pick? And then I'll tell you what our followers have picked.
I would have had to say Yoda, and I would have said Yoda. I think Baby Yoda is super cute and it's very interesting. But if you look at the first episode that came out, which would not be the first episode. I don't even know which one it is.
And you mean
which
Star
would
Wars?
Be the second one. Yeah, the second Star Wars that came out. When Yoda was introduced, he was comic relief. He was a really goofy character at first.
Yeah.
It was almost ridiculous.
Almost couldn't see what's going on.
Right. And then he got into a Zen situation, and I think he used humor, to kind of mask some of that and play the fool when he was really wise in the background. But
well, and when you see 1 through 3, his heart's broken by the time Luke's there, so he's probably hiding the pain, with humor.
Right. But did they know that? Did they know that?
I don't know.
I don't know. Storyline back then.
George Lucas is a genius. That's all I want to say.
Yeah.
Now, I will say our listeners, our followers on Instagram, so far, Yoda is beating Baby Yoda.
Thank goodness.
I'm actually surprised.
Me too.
I am too.
54% vote for Yoda, 46
That's
Baby
close.
Yoda. And when I say those numbers, I mean 35 had voted for Yoda, and only 22 have voted for Baby Yoda.
Okay.
So that's not bad. That's
interesting.
That's a pretty good little Monday poll that we've done.
Thank you for that.
And I was actually very impressed.
Yeah.
Baby Yoda was such a big deal the past 6 months.
All 22 of the people that voted for Baby Yoda are females. You know that for a fact,
interesting
right?
you say
I can
that.
actually look to see.
As a marketer, I'd be very interested in the demographics behind those votes.
Yeah.
Well, y'all,
We'll do
move
this
on, and I'll get the numbers for y'all.
We'll do this another time. So Stuart, we are here to talk about you, although Baby Yoda's on the list apparently.
That's fun.
So the Little Guide to Augusta is what you're working on right now. I think the best way to get that started. Can you tell us kind of like the current state of the Little Guide? Like what's going on with you guys right now?
Well, we are about to put out our 3rd edition, and that's the most exciting thing that we've got going on. In fact, on my way over here, I got a text from the printer, and he said it's ready.
Wow.
I didn't expect it until Friday, and we're going to do a distribution Monday, so we won't distribute it. But of course, with the current, COVID-19 situation and business being in an unprecedented point, small businesses being closed down the way they are, it makes it difficult for us to do our job in a traditional way. What we do is we promote small locally owned businesses. We encourage people to leave their homes and go out into the world and spend money specifically with local risk takers that have, come up with a great idea or curated a really interesting or very good thing. And we share that good news with people, and we encourage them to go and support. And that's not where our climate is right now. And it's odd to find ourselves in this spot. I never would have predicted that something like this could happen. So we are trying to mitigate how we get the book out, and we certainly want to be on the front edge of encouraging people to go and do and spend money and get out. But of course, we don't want to do that too early. We know that when we encourage people to go and do, especially if we're going to lead that charge or be at least on the front end of it, that we'll have some pushback, and we're getting prepared for that. And ultimately, it seems like nobody really knows what to predict or what's going to happen in the future. So, it's a risk. Encouraging people to go out's a risk. Encouraging people to stay home is a risk.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of where you fall and what do you, as a, community leader, what would one feel like is the most appropriate, thing to push. So we'll work through that and decide when to put it out and decide when to really get heavy on social media and encourage people to start going and doing in an effort to hopefully build some excitement and help some of these small businesses recoup some of the revenue they've lost and be able to hire people back and, get this economy going again.
Yeah, and there's I know that in the past, I'll start with this. In the past, you also have been working on a walking map, and that's something we wanted to make sure that we also talked about. How does the walking map figure in with what's going on in the Little Guide?
Well, they're two separate companies. The Walking Map and another product, the newcomersguide.com, I own under a Business Cultivator, which is a company I own wholly. And then Swift Ray is Molly Swift and myself, and that holds the Little Guide.
That makes so much sense.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just
There you go.
realized that.
I've been trying to figure out what that
and
means.
Rayburn.
Right. You got it.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, we didn't go too far for that one. It was right there in front
Genius.
of us. Yeah. So they're just held differently. They all do similar things. I mean, the downtown map. We do here in Augusta, and we do one in Athens, Georgia. And those are specifically for visitors to discover essentially what's going on for fun around them. So if they're in a hotel room or if they're at a conference, they can pick up this piece of paper, this fold-out brochure map, and see what's within walking distance that is of value to them. And again, we're trying to stay away from big corporates, and we're going for where's the local flavor, because that's what people want to experience when they visit a town, is what's the local flavor.
It's really the only flavor you can get off Broad Street, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, unless Memo Mushroom.
That's right.
Or
right,
Groucho's,
right, right.
Groucho's,
And interestingly, those still kind of fit into the culture.
They have the feel of the local companies.
Right, even though they are, bit larger and corporate.
Yeah.
So that's what we do there. It's really a piece for visitors, and there's crossover. Locals like it and utilize it in some cases, and newcomers like it and utilize it in some cases. But its focus is visitors. The newcomersguide.com obviously has a focus on newcomers. It's a digital product only. It's thenewcomersguide.com. And we partner with a lot of large employers there and some small businesses. But Fort Gordon's MWR is featured on there, as is Augusta University. And those are the two largest employers in town. And they have a natural interest because they recruit so many people from out of town.
Right.
And they were looking for a resource like that. So we were able to provide it, not specifically for them, but it just happened to be a fit once we completed the website. And then, of course, moving over to the Little Guide, it was made specifically for locals. We have crossover. Newcomers love it. Visitors try to grab it when they can. But we had locals in mind there, and we just wanted to expand the horizon for a local individual that just didn't have their ear to the ground and know that much about what's going on and what's open and what makes them unique and special.
I would definitely say if you're in the Little Guide, there's some major street cred.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it.
Clearly, we think
Thank you.
that.
Well, I'm
Absolutely.
glad you feel that way. I do too.
Absolutely. I do have a off-topic question. I'm just curious on your opinion. So a lot of people would disagree with me. I love Augusta. I love our downtown. But I also think there's people that live here that also want some franchises downtown.
Sure.
Let's just look at Athens, for example. You walk around Athens, you see a Barbaritos in an old building. You see a Five Guys in an old building. It's kind of cool. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
I'm 28, and so I think that's cool. But I'm just curious, a guy that part owns the Little Guide. Do you think a franchise at some stature would be beneficial to Augusta, having Cyber Center right there?
Yeah.
The medical district. You have North Augusta. All that. Do you think that could help?
Oh, I do.
And could they be in the Little Guide?
Let me get to that next. But we do have a policy. It's a loose policy, but we do have a policy, and I'll get to that. But so that's an interesting question because I've been involved in downtown Athens culture for a while with the map and talked to a lot of business owners and other people. And local Athens culture has this idea that they don't want corporate in downtown. They want to keep it pure in a certain way. There's a story that I heard a few years ago of how they ran a Wendy's out of downtown, collectively.
Just curious, do you see that in Savannah too? You're from Savannah, that's why I asked.
I think, it's just really a matter of what side you're on. And I think there are always local townies that have these thoughts and feelings. They're usually younger, with,
More idealistic.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think what people have to, realize is it's absolutely a balance. So well-recognized name brands can bring people into an area and make them comfortable. And that allows them the ability to then experiment and go to these other places with which they may have never gone otherwise. They may not have even come to this section of town if you're talking about locals. So really, it's kind of a leader. It pulls people in, and then they're able to see that maybe in this case, downtown is a safe place to be, or maybe they can get some things that are familiar to them from the suburb that they're from, and it makes them feel comfortable. And then they're willing to come down again and do something that's, more unique and a local offering. So for that reason, I think it's good. Another reason why I think it's good is honestly, most people that buy these franchises, first of all, these poor people, because this is not the best way to make money. Paying somebody that much to start a business, there's certainly some safety in it, but there's a lot of risk too. And, that's just a large startup cost. You got build outs and royalties and just all kinds of fees and cost, franchise fees. And wow, the extra money. So, but these are mostly people who wanted to start a small business and work for themselves anyway. So there's the same kind of person that would have opened up something else.
And that's why it's a more open-ended question. Because you can see like Groucho's, for example, run as a small business, even though it's not.
Well, to him, I assume it's a him. But to them it is.
To the owner,
Yeah, it is. To them.
It's not like I don't like what we have already. I just think we could offer so much more.
Put a Publix on 5th Street,
Something would be great.
By Luigi's.
If anybody knows the Chick-fil-A franchise, there's so many different things you have to pass in order to open one up.
Well, that's the whole thing. Yeah.
There is not one within 5 miles in downtown. Right. And so what about the people that work down here and they want Chick-fil-A? They got to drive all the way to Washington Road. They got to drive all the way deep into North Augusta. I'm just saying, if we want people to work down here that aren't from here, we're going to need to put something down here that they're comfortable with. And that's my take on it. And I love all the coffee shops we have here.
Yeah.
But you cannot change someone that is a Starbucks drinker to become a local, let's say, Ubora drinker overnight.
Yeah.
But the way to do that is you put a Starbucks down here for everybody.
There's a line at Starbucks, and then they
realize,
door.
There's Ubora across the street. Let me go there. And then they try it out.
I'm not on your side here. I'm just helping your argument.
There is no sides here. It's just an idea. And I think
agree.
Some people should open up to that idea if they want to see the growth that they want to see down here. They need to be open to having some sort of franchise. I'm getting passionate about this. I don't mean to, but
I agree with you. I think people should be open to it. I think I really fall into the local is better camp.
Yes.
But I see some value in that idea, and as long as it wasn't overrun, then I like it.
That's the fear.
But you don't know. So what drives it moving in that direction is population or foot traffic, essentially, and then rents.
Yeah.
So you get to a tipping point in a downtown sometimes where, as traffic increases and people are more successful, rents go up, and then people just can't do a small startup. And then you start to lose
I think you see that
art and culture.
You see that in Charleston a lot. If you go on the main street there, they're all big box stores. So I do see where
seems
you're
to be the
coming
trend.
from with that.
Yeah. And a mixture is what I like. Low on the franchises,
I agree.
But I
agree.
get that they have value.
So the little guide would potentially do business with a franchise.
Okay,
if
so
it was locally owned.
That's our policy. Is we really try to take it a case at a time. Our general policy is no franchises. That's our general. So
That's
there's always an exception to that rule. So one exception here is Wild Wing Cafe, right? So
that makes sense.
The reason why we have an interest in Wild Wing is because it's owned by stalwart locals who have been really good to the community and given back to the community, number one. Number two, they promote local and regional music, and they have local acts in and pay artists in that way. And they bring in regional acts that are really relatively unknown, but it gives local acts from a 4-state area that wouldn't have a venue otherwise, kind of a track to go around and play. So we find that interesting. They're giving back to the community. They're giving back to the arts. So it makes a lot of sense for us. A local, so like, there's a burrito place that's local, right? Is it Twisted Burrito or the other one? I don't know.
Diablo's is local.
Diablo's. Well, they're not our customer, so I don't have to know about them. But we hope that they are in the future, and of course, I'll learn more at that point. But their goal is to franchise that out, and it's very franchise looking, very corporate looking.
Are we talking about Diablo's?
Yes,
I think they have
franchised out.
Yeah,
and I think you're right. I think they have
because there's some in random areas. There's Birmingham. There's plenty in Athens. There's plenty in.
I'm surprised people eat healthy.
Alpharetta and Gwinnett County area. They're starting to franchise out. I mean, I don't blame them. It's good stuff.
They could have 8 in
but
Alpharetta.
It's local.
That would be a situation where it's a franchise, but it's derived locally, and their headquarters, franchise national headquarters, is in Augusta.
Pretty cool.
That
Pretty
makes
cool
sense to us, right? That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then we'll go out a little bit. So, like, Zaxby's is kind of on the line. They do things a little bit different. They're everywhere for us, but somebody from another area may have never seen one.
Right.
And their corporate headquarters is Statesboro. Yeah. So that's not Augusta, but it sure is close. And, I feel like that's reasonable. Barbaritos, Your Pie, the same thing. They're out of Athens as their franchise headquarters. So as close as that is, they seem regional to us. I mean, it may not be automatic, but it would be something that we would consider. But I mean, when you go to, there's another 1,000 of them that we wouldn't be. There's no McDonald's.
There's no McDonald's.
Whatever.
Right.
Just fill in a blank. There's plenty of them.
So Stuart, we've talked about a lot of different businesses that you're a part of. Can I get a clear count right now of how many businesses you own and operate right now?
Well, we have 4 businesses with 6 products. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I mean, we know, calling a widget a product.
A widget?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So one of them, I mean, I own a building downtown. It's LLC does
That's
a building
a business.
only.
Okay.
We have tenants. I call it a business. It's not a big business. We're not growing it. It's not going anywhere, but it counts as a tick,
There you go.
Right. Yeah.
That's where I live. That's where my businesses live. But it's a thing that takes time up in my day. I mean, when there's a challenge, then, that's my problem. And when they don't show up to cut the grass, that's my problem. So even though it's not
a business.
Active business, that it's a business.
Okay. So with all that being said, and we do have one more question, of course, at the end. I'm going to ask this one and then cede myself to Chris and let him take us to the end. What is the future of downtown? What is the future of Augusta in your eyes? Doing all this business, knowing all these people.
That's a freaking good question.
Yeah, I agree.
And for the record, we have never asked anybody else this question.
It's a great question. Well, the future for downtown Augusta is bright. If you'd have asked that 3 years ago, it would have been more difficult to answer.
But it would have been easier in December too, also.
Well, absolutely. So the answer to that question became apparent about 2 to 2.5 years ago. And really, I guess what sealed it was Augusta University's interest in buying property and developing downtown Augusta. I mean, that sealed it. We already knew that it was going to grow and property values would go up. You look at any middle market in the Southeast, and they're all developing their downtowns, and they're all in flux. I mean, some are at the beginning, some are at the end, and some are in the middle of that process. Macon is a great example. Columbus, Georgia is a great example, both of being really on the front end of revitalization with a lot of empty storefronts. We're close-ish to that. We're moved a little bit towards the middle. But I mean, this is no Savannah, this is no Charleston, and I mean, there's no point in talking about Atlanta. That's been done, 30 years ago. So it's going up, and that's just how it's going to be. Everybody should have bought property 3 years ago, 5 years ago. But if that can't happen, then
I was graduating high
too.
school, I should just start buying buildings.
Right. With all your graduation money.
With my graduation gift cards.
That's right. But it's still going to get better. So obviously we're in some kind of a weird holding pattern, but that'll change.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
all right, and as promised,
yeah,
I'm gonna let my words go, and I'm gonna push it over to Chris.
So we ask every guest this question, and it's cool because you moved here in '88 for college,
and you planned to leave.
I did.
Yes. So
as many people do.
I'm sure then it was much more easy to throw around the word disgusta. This word has basically motivated us to do this podcast, and hence the name Drop the Dis. And if someone were to come up to you tomorrow and diss Augusta, talk negatively about it, what would you say to them in the most kind words possible? I have to say that because we've had some other answers and we had to re-ask it.
I'm capable of editing, so
Right. Well, so here's the thing. I mean, I have a lot to say about that. The first thing I would do is probably ignore it and walk away. And I'll tell you why. You just can't really change anyone's mind, especially not directly. You're not going to have a conversation with somebody that's taking a stance in public and have them at the end of the conversation.
Oh, you were right.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Oh, you know what? I'd never thought of it that way. That's just not our culture today. They're going to argue. They may find out in the middle of their argument that they're wrong, but they're going to hold that line anyway.
I think Facebook,
because that's how people are.
I think Facebook proves you right every day.
But I will say this: it really bothers me when people talk badly about the town that we live in. I don't mind hearing things that just happen to be negative because it's a normal course of conversation, but we all know people who have a bent for just constantly throwing stuff, and it's not reasonable, and it's not fair-minded. There are a lot of assets here, and there have been for a long time. Before the food culture kind of upped its game 3 or 4 years ago, there were still plenty of really interesting and unique solid value places to go. Some of them are many years old, and some of them are brand new. There was always something to do. You just had to be creative and find it. And if one were to look in the most obvious place, which
putt.
Well, yeah. But I mean, what I'm thinking of here is, the nonprofit. Opportunities that we have here.
What do we have? The most dense nonprofit community in the Southeast or something? It's crazy.
I've heard this. So if you are bored and devoid of creative ideas, I think all you have to do is look at the nonprofit fundraising schedule, and you will find a number of parties, balls, silent auctions, centered around wine, beer, art, chocolate, you name it, barbecue,
live bands.
I mean, if you went to no restaurant and you went to no private party and you simply paid for a ticket to the thing that everybody is invited to, that happens probably once a weekend, you got 52 events a year to go to. That's all you need. You don't have to be a member of the country club, and you don't have to be cool enough to know about Garden City Social Club. Yeah, just look in the whatever, the paper, look online, and you're going to find it. It couldn't be easier, and it's bothersome that people cannot solve their own problems, and they're saying that their problem is they can find nothing to do. Well, just get creative. And, the motto in Savannah was, if you can't find anything to do, throw your own damn party. So why not?
That's a great motto that
Yeah.
I definitely did in college.
Yeah, I'm here for that. I'm here for that.
100%.
As the pre-podcast stories would tell you. So,
Yes.
Stuart, before we let you go, we do give everybody this opportunity. If there's anybody you want to shout out, any shout outs you have, the floor is yours to make them.
Well, thank you. My son, Will Rayburn, and my son, John Rayburn, are awesome guys, and I'm very proud of them. So I hope they're able to hear this podcast. Good guys. Can't wait for them to grow up and you guys to meet them.
Awesome.
I'm here for that, and they can come have a beer as soon as you allow them to.
It'll be a while.
Okay, that's fine. Okay.
It'll be a while, but thank you, Stuart, for coming in.
Thank you so
to our
much.
studio and having this awesome episode with
Yeah.
you.
Thanks, guys. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. If you have not had a chance yet, please go rate us on iTunes.
5 stars.
Give us a review. If not 5 stars, tell us why. We'd
Yeah.
like to make it better for you.
But tell us why in a DM, and then go back and rate us 5 stars after we fix it.
We will fix it for you. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
right.
We love y'all. Thank y'all.
All right.